the goal is to pass it back to you on Thursday. I'm not going to pinky promise because just can't make that promise, but you'll get it back this week. The goal is to pass it back to you on Thursday. Alex, I just pulled yours by random. Don't read anything. What I'm going to do, I'm obviously going to read through them. Each page, I'm going to see people are now judging themselves based on what you wrote. They're going, oh God, I didn't write that much. Or I'm going to mark each page out of 10 points. 5 points basically for actions, and then a point for the motives, words that describe other characters, relationships, all that kind of stuff with it. I realize some characters have more actions than other characters. Adam does a lot more than Mrs. Trask. Okay, so that's understandable. But I'm going to go 5, and then 5, 1, so that means 10 points for each character. How many characters did you have? 15. That's 150 points. I am not putting in a 150 point assignment because that messes everything up. I'm going to take that 150 and I'm going to divide by 3, and so it'll be out of 50. I don't want to do like 10 points because it's a lot of work. I don't want to do 150 points because that's just obscene. So whatever you get out of the 150, I'm going to divide by 3, and that's what's going to show up into.
What if you have like motives and stuff, but they're wrong?
What do you mean by wrong?
Like it's just not correct. What if you still get points or no?
If your motive is that Adam wants to protect himself from the alien invasion, you're wrong. You're not getting anything for that.
Okay. What if it's close?
And this is where things get dangerous. There's obviously interpretation.
Yeah.
Which is going to turn into Mr. Payne, this is my interpretation, so I'm wrong, right? Wink, wink. So if you have some things that I don't necessarily agree with, that doesn't mean points are going to be taken off. I could certainly see you even changing some of your own viewpoints over the course of the next week based on things that we talk about, with the book. So as long as you're in the ballpark, you should be okay. This is the first time that I've ever done East of Eden as a summer read. This is the first time that I've ever taught East of Eden to a group of students. So you guys are guinea pigs. There are going to be some curious things that are going to be showing up on these character sheets that I probably did not anticipate. 3 years from now, I can be like, well, it's not uncommon for people to write this, even though you might be mistaken. So, like for example, if for Kate/Kathy, you put motives to make Aaron's life better for him by, sending all of her money to him, I would say I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
But there's support for, I could see where an interpretation of that could happen, but I would go, do you really think a satanic woman would try to do something nice for her overly religious son? Probably not. And then we could explain why you and I disagree. But that's not something that I would be holding accountable.
Okay. So as long as you reason.
Yeah. Is it always going to be that way over the course of the year? Not necessarily. There'll be times where, sorry, you're wrong. I understand why you're wrong. You now understand why you're wrong, but you're wrong. But at this point, yeah, there's probably a little bit more leeway with it than okay. Good question, though. Valid question. And that's the big thing. If you have a question, ask. That falls under the common sense. Like, if you don't know, ask a question about it. There's 22 of you in here. If you don't know, there's a good chance someone else probably doesn't know either. Or if you don't know, there's a good chance that I didn't think about that as being something that you don't know. Because there could be some situations where I assume you understand something or picked up on something, and then after we've done with the book, the whole class goes, no, I didn't get that at all. Why didn't you say something? Because you didn't ask. Before I forget, Bedford Reader, I don't need to see it for a while. Next week we'll be using them, the yellow book, but that's going to be a little ways off. I'll let you know when you need to bring it back. College Board says I need to have a textbook, so that's my textbook that I rarely use. But Hannah, you now have one, so good for you. It's been College Board approved. It's an anthology of short essays, nonfiction texts, and things like that. So Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech, we'll be taking a look at that one next week. But until that point, you don't need to bring that book in here. So you're not getting secret bonus points for having that book with you. I would have East of Eden with you because we might look some things up. We might not, depending where the conversation goes. But I would keep that book with you, for the next week or so, a couple of weeks off while we're working on some things. All right. Good. All right. A couple things here then. Hey, the smartboard worked. This won't always work. The weekly syllabus is already wrong, as is the big course syllabus, which breaks my heart. I got an email 2 days ago going, your Gmail has changed, Mr. Kane, so I now have a new address. And all your teachers will be getting new addresses, but they haven't all necessarily happened yet. The two easiest ways to contact me are Gmail and then also Remind, which you have signed up for. The new weekly syllabi that I pass out the rest of the year, or that I post the rest of the year, have the updated address. But it is KaneJ at staff, which I'm very happy about. I've graduated from a student to a staff member at .nhsd.net. So it's similar to yours, but it's staff nhsd.net. I don't know, and we might not know till we start sharing stuff. When you're in Google Docs or Drive and you type in like a teacher's name, their Gmail would show up. I have no idea which Gmail address is going to show up. Maybe both of them were. We were told that for this year, should you accidentally send something or purposely send something to that address, it should still forward to my new one. I've been pretty impressed and surprised how smooth, all my stuff have migrated over to a new account, so I think that should still work. I do also have the KaneJ at nhsd.net, the regular email. I think this one works better because the filter's not nearly as picky as the other one is. So those would be the best ways to get a hold of me. All right. Things that are going on here for this week. Beginning of every week, I give you a weekly syllabus. I made paper copies for everyone. Next week, I'll probably do a few paper copies, and then after that, I'm not sure if I'll make any paper copies. We'll wait and see. You folks get iPads next Monday. That's the iPad date. So all of these things would get posted to Google Classroom. You folks are pretty familiar with using iPads and things like that. You're a little bit more used to it. You are the first set of juniors that are using it, so it's a little different for me because stuff like I couldn't do on iPads, now I can. If we're doing something and you're like, this would be so much easier on the iPad, tell me, and then we kind of make that. But a lot of this stuff I'll probably just post as opposed to making the copies over and over. Johnny, you know what I forgot to do?
What?
Forgot to switch my cell phone sign. See if everyone would shuffle the way. I still can, yeah. But I wanted to see if you knew what I forgot. Oh, look, that even fell. Look at that frown.
Forget it again, I'll remind you.
Thank you. That's why I said something to you. He's got the straight on, look for it. Reading assignment on here, which I told you about, chapters 8 and 9 of East of Eden for Thursday. The writing assignment, East of Eden prompts, there's 2 of them. You have no idea what those are. But you have them, so good for you. Tomorrow we're going to go over your writing prompts, specifically the first one for East of Eden, so that you kind of have an idea as to what's going on. You're going to have a rough draft of an essay due next Thursday. Some of you are going, I don't even know what this essay is, and it's due next Thursday. You'll know what it is here in a little bit. Tomorrow we'll start going over it. Rough draft next Thursday. Thursday, we'll do our quiz. Notice I put on here notes permitted, those 20 points. And then on Friday, we'll also probably still be going over stuff with chapters 8 and 9, but it could start to get into the book as a whole with East of Eden. And then by Friday, Google Classroom, that information form I want you to fill out. I'll show you where that is here in a moment. When I say due Friday, that means due Friday by 11:59 p.m. So if you fill out your student survey information form Friday homeroom, or Friday 9th period study hall, or Friday after school, all 3 of those examples would still be on time. One of the things in the student information at the very end is like, is there anything I need to know about you? Could be medical stuff. It could be seating preference. I can't see. Bring me up forward. I don't like you. Put me in the back corner. Sarah stole candy from me in 4th grade. Separate us. Whatever. Just let me know that stuff, and then that's when some seats and other things could, change a little bit. Down at the bottom of a weekly syllabus, I always try to put some upcoming dates. It's not always this comprehensive, but it kind of lets you know what's coming down the pike. On the 26th, you have a test for East of Eden. When's the 26th? That's Monday, all right? So remember it said you'll have a test within the first 2 weeks. I gave you about a week. You got a test for East of Eden on Monday. It's all multiple choice, comprehensive exam. take a period, then we're done, move on. On Tuesday, you're going to get your next book, Heart of Darkness. It's my autobiography. Good way to start the year. We're still going to be working on your East of Eden essay and that other East of Eden essay, and then I'm going to collect those East of Eden essays on September the 12th. So we're going to be working on Heart of Darkness while you're still finishing up some things with East of Eden. All right, that's not meant to scare you, but we do multiple things at the same time. The good news is the way it is now is the way it is all year. Ethan's going, that doesn't sound good. I say it's good because once you get the deer in the headlight look and you kind of take care of that after a couple weeks, you take off the floaties and you tread water, you're fine for the rest of the year. It's not that in September or October or November things get harder. This is just the way they stay. So you just kind of get used to it. Some months you'll probably find more miserable than others because just of your own personal preferences. But it's not that, hey, wait till December when things really get tough. This is just the way that things are for the whole year. That's why you'll be okay, Ethan. All right. So you have all these dates that you can kind of keep an eye on how things are going. We'll obviously talk about East of Eden. I want to talk about East of Eden. We're not spending a day like on chapter 1 and then chapter 2 and then chapter 48 because it would be Christmas before we would get done with there. So again, as questions pop up in your head that deal with the writing assignments that we're going to do, ask them, and so that we can figure them out. If I'm not sure about something, Isa?
Yes.
Yes. See, I thought Isa. No, Isa sounds weird. Isa.
Yeah.
Isa might ask a question, and if I'm not sure, I'll say, you know what, I'm not sure. And then we'll figure it out. I'm not going to pretend to know every single thing about every single writer and what he or she was thinking at the time. If I know, I'll tell you. If not, we'll investigate. We'll find out. Google Classroom, I mentioned to you. To fill out your student information form, you need to go to Google. You'll need to sign into Google Classroom. Where it is located, and I just did a screenshot of the classwork tab. So when you first go to Google Classroom, that stream is open. You go to classwork, up at the very top is the student information survey. I just have that thing right there at the very top, so it's pretty much impossible to miss. It'll take you to a Google form. You did yours. Yeah. Emma did it. I don't know anything about Emma, but Emma did it. So you can again judge.
That'll be the one time I had.
Brady did it. I
He
mean,
smizzled.
yeah. And Brady weighs like 108 pounds. If he can do it. Someone else did too. I forget who.
Diana, because I was calling Diana. She got the.
Yeah, I think she did. There you go. You're not part of the triumvirate. So Google Classroom obviously will be an app that we'll use a fair amount. We'll kind of show you a little bit more with it tomorrow. But if it's a handout, it's on Google Classroom that I give to you. Lessons that we do are on Google Classroom that you'll be able to access. If you lose your Remind information, that's there for you. So the student survey, I'll probably take down by the end of the week and just delete it from there. So fill it out. And then the first thing that's always up at the top is the daily agenda, which I was just showing you a little bit ago. All right. Already did our little Remind thing, so there's that. Yay. All right, course syllabus. This is your saving grace. Don't lose it. Take pride in my course syllabus. Feel that paper. What's your problem with my course syllabus? There's a couple reasons why you don't want to lose it. Not the main one, but one of the big ones for you later on, and don't get worried about it now. Take a look on page 24, it says AP Literary Terms. Sometime in October, you're going to start having quizzes on your AP Literary Terms. So when you go, where are my AP Literary Terms? We'll all point at you and go, silly, silly person. They're in your course syllabus. And then Hannah will go, oh yeah. So when you go that the first one's going to be allegory through antithesis, not antithesis, but antithesis, you'll just be studying this first page. And then when we do the next page, you have it. So we'll hold on to it number one for that reason, as well as so many others that we're going to go over here in a minute. Just some main, the first few pages are just kind of the main stuff. Bedford Reader is the only other not big, but is the only textbook that we really use throughout the course of the year. Everything else is novels. East of Eden, I don't know how long we're going to use it. I might have you hold on to it for a little bit after we're done with the essays, because I could see us potentially doing some other stuff down the road with it. But we'll wait and see. But most of the time, the book that you have is the book that we're going to be reading for a couple weeks. So next week you'll be getting Heart of Darkness. You'll probably have Heart of Darkness for about 2-3 weeks, and then you'll turn it in, and then you'll sign up something else, and we just kind of go, with that setup. So the good news is most of the stuff's light, easy to carry. You don't have to bring, big book, large book with you every single day. Most texts, I also put a PDF file of on Google Classroom as well. So, if you have soccer practice and you need to look up something in East of Eden, you don't have your book with you, you could go to Google Classroom on phone, iPad, whatever, and also kind of scan through some stuff. If you are an iPad reader, some of you are, some of you aren't, page numbers are different, so when we talk about, if you look at page 217, that could be very different from like a digital copy of the book or whatnot. The main thing from the first page, though, that you would want to be aware of, and I don't think your English teachers last year did this, this tends to be something that happens more in a science classroom. I weight grades. So your essays that we do a fair amount of them, make up half of your grade. The quizzes or the tests that we do make up 35% of your grade. And then homework participation. And participation isn't me counting how many times you raise your hand, but it could be, like if there is a little homework assignment that I want you to do or something smaller, that makes up 15% of your grade. That's not a bad thing, but it can be a little weird at first because until you do your first essay, half of your grade's not like in the grade book yet. That doesn't mean that you're going to have a 50%, and Emily's going to be like, why don't I have a 50%? But it just means the grades really will jump once that first essay assignment goes in, because that first essay will count literally as half of your grade. So regardless of how much other stuff is in there, that essay will make up half. Those will balance out over a course of time. So the packet that I just collected from you, I'm going to kind of put in here as a test quiz because I would consider it a project. So you have a 50-point project that's going to be going in. The quiz that we're going to take on Thursday is going to go in as a quiz grade. When you submit your first rough draft next week, that's going to go in as a homework participation grade. So I'll usually let you know where they kind of fall, and you'll kind of start to understand what those categories are as we do more and more things throughout the course of the year. PowerSchool does not do a good job of explaining what things are. I mean, it'll say quiz, it'll say essay, it'll say participation, but I haven't found a way on PowerSchool for it to explain this is your essay grade, this is your quiz grade, this is your participation grade. I can see it on my end. I don't think you can see it on your end. But it can get confusing for some folks because say that Grace is over there. Well, I was looking at you, so we'll say Abby.
Okay.
Abby's got a 90%. Okay. Her average essay grade is a 93%. So Abby has a 90%. Abby's happy. Abby has a 93 in her essays. She's really happy. Abby turns in an essay to me. Her essay that you get back, you get a 90% on. That's still a pretty good essay. Potentially her 90% overall grade could now go down because you have lowered your 93 average. And that's where people start looking at you kind of funny. So even though you have a 90 and your new assignment was a 90, if it caused your essay grade, which was your high one, to go down, then that overall 90 would go down. Conversely, Grace also has a 90, but her average, I don't know, your average quiz grade is a 74 for some reason. This is like mathematically impossible, but we'll say, whatever. She has a 90 with a really low quiz. She gets an 80 on her quiz. Her grade could actually go up. And now you're mad because I got a 90, she got an 80. Why did I go down and why did she go up, kind of thing. So those things do kind of even out as things go along, but it kind of, you got to wait a little bit for those buckets to get their points for them to kind of even out. And again, if you have questions about that stuff, by all means, let me know. The next few pages, I'm going to assume that you're going to read through them. Course readings, notice this says potential. Probably what we'll do, but things could certainly kind of change a little bit. I did put in another copy of your summer reading handout, not the character analysis packet, but another copy of that. And then starting on page 4 is when you kind of go through the regular procedures and all that kind of stuff. The big change for most of you probably is going to be the way that we do essays. You submit your essays to turnitin.com. I'm pretty sure you did that last year, but you don't give me paper copies of your essays. I just grade them through turnitin.com. It's a win for you and it's a win for me. It's a win for me in a couple reasons. Number one, you don't have to ask me to go print out your essay. It's a win for you because you don't have to ask me to go print out your essay and then find out that the printers aren't printing. Maybe Hannah, they'll print next week. Maybe. It's easier for me to grade them online because I don't have to psychologically look at a stack of essays. You can read my handwriting because it's not there. Yeah, that's about it. So those are the good things. The other benefit for you is since you're not physically giving it to me, if I say that you have an essay due on Tuesday, that means you have through Tuesday night to submit. So usually most assignments, first period is kind of behind the 8 ball because you have to hand it in first. But whether you're in first period or 7th period, your essays would be due at the same time. An exception to this are your rough drafts that we are going to be doing for East of Eden. Those we do need in class because you are going to be peer editing them. We'll talk about printing them or not printing them. I haven't decided what to do with that. I'll probably give you the option if you want to print or you just want to have it as a Google Doc. But those rough drafts, so starting for next Thursday, that rough draft you will need for first period. But when you submit your final copies on September the 12th, you would be submitting that by 11:59 p.m. That's not me going that Virginia has to wait until 11:59 p.m. She can submit whenever she desires. So don't be the person where I got the email where how dare I make Emily wait up till 11:59 to submit her essay. I'm causing stress. I know I cause stress, but that's not the reason why. So you can still submit the essay whenever you want. Just before 11:59. This has to show up on time. If you turn in essays late, 15% get deducted and all that kind of stuff, so don't do that. Don't plagiarize. We'll talk about that. Don't plagiarize, don't plagiarize, don't plagiarize, don't plagiarize. Kyle, do you know what plagiarism means? Okay. Sarah, you know. Katie, you know. Abby. Grace. We'll still talk about it and go over it anyway, Johnny. Don't plagiarize. Makeup, test, quizzes. If you miss a day, see me. That's the nice thing about homeroom. We can kind of take care of stuff. If you are absent on a day that an assignment was due, I still expect that you're going to be able to turn it into me. Now, if something was given out for the next day, I understand that you won't be able to do that, but certainly reminding Google Classroom allows us to still be able to do some things. All lessons or most lessons that I record. So those things would get posted for you. So if you weren't here right now, you could still listen to all the wonderful questions that Isa is asking. You only asked one,
Yeah.
but I was just practicing your name.
Okay.
Yep. Kirsten. Yep. Page 6. This is an important page. Any ideas why this page is important? I'd say right now it might be the most important page for you. Sarah, you're mumbling something. Has the prompts. So when we do your East of Eden prompts, they're right there. Okay? Grace just had an epiphany. She's crying. She's so happy about it. So when we say we're talking about prompt number 1 tomorrow, this is prompt number 1. When we go in another week, we'll talk about prompt number 2. This will be prompt number 2. Right now, I'm not worried about prompt number 2. I'm only worried about this one. So besides reading chapters 8 and 9 for Thursday, not tomorrow, your homework is to take a look at that prompt and figure out what it is you don't get about it, if anything. If you look at it and you go, this is easy, then you're going to explain that for us so that other people feel better about themselves tomorrow. The hope is when you walk out of here tomorrow, number one, you know what it is you're supposed to write about, and number two, you at least kind of have an attack plan to go about doing so, like constructing a thesis statement that's going to work and all that kind of stuff. Most, not all, most of your essay assignments you now have for the year. They're in the course syllabus. It's basically a roadmap for what we're going to do. So the next text that's on here, and the order might kind of change from time to time, but usually I'll keep it this order. You see the next text on page number 7 is Heart of Darkness. When you take a look then at the, oh, that's right, because we got the whole argument stuff, probably on page 8. Yeah, at the bottom of page 8, you already know what your essay assignment is going to be for Heart of Darkness. Not that I want to get you confused about what we're going to be doing with East of Eden, but a lot of times when people start reading, they like to know what it is they're going to have to do. Now you know what it is that you're going to have to do. So while you're reading, Marie could start looking for, well, how does Marlowe start to kind of characterize Kurtz, in the early parts of the book, in the middle parts of the book, and then you feel a little bit better about it as you're reading. Some of you love sticky notes. Some of you have competitions as to who can have the most sticky notes. Color-coded sticky notes, or you just ran out of colors, I don't know. Okay. But it gives you a way that you can kind of start trying to attack how you're going to identify stuff within the book. I might change some prompts based on what I think are strengths or weaknesses, things that we need to work on, or I come up with something better or whatever. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff in here, you already, you know what those writing assignments are going to be. As you flip then through course syllabus, the page, come on. Some of you are already looking at your final exam. And they were going, why in the world do I need to know about a final exam? But you found it. I'm not worried about it. But on page 17 is our writing scale. Last year, if you had pre-AP, I think Mrs. Perry and Mrs. Palmieri introduced you to a 9-point writing scale. Does that sound familiar? To no fault of their own, that's no longer valid. In July, I got an email from College Board, hey, we're changing some things on your test. One of those things is the way that we grade the essays. Oh, okay. So now instead of a 9-point scale, we have a 6-point scale. And I'm not even worried about the nuances of it and all that kind of stuff right now. But this is an important page for you. And it actually kind of works out because, again, it's right in the middle of the course syllabus. When it opens up, it just goes to that page. This is how I grade your essays. So when you get your first essay back and it says 5, I don't want anyone crying that they only got a 5%. It's not that you got a 5%, it's that on the AP scale you got a 5. And for us, that would convert to an 84%. The 6-point scale is not going away, at least not this year, because the College Board said this is what it is. What I'm not 100% sure about, because they haven't really explained a whole lot yet, is how I'm going to use it from a grade standpoint. Right now, this should work. I think this will be okay. If I feel that throughout the course of the year, you know what, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. A 5 is really better than an 84. It's an 86. We'll make those adjustments. But right now, I think this is probably where it's going to be for now. But any kind of changes, I'll certainly let you know about as I become more familiar with it. Right now, they just haven't explained a whole lot about it. Whereas the 9-point scale, I knew up, down, sideways, left, right, all that stuff. I do think that you'll like this scale. I think it's easier for you in the sense that if you turn the page, there is a rubric. And I don't expect that you're going to be taking a sight test right now and have Julia read the first box from her seat in the back there. But the way that the College Board is going to break down your essays, you get a point for a thesis statement, so long as it's good. 4 points for evidence. 1 point for sophistication. So what is good for you, whereas the 9-point scale was holistic, meaning looking at the essay as a whole, you got an 8 or you got a 6. And then you had to kind of break down and explain, well, this is why you got a 6 as opposed to a 7 or a 5. This is a little more cut and dry. If you have a thesis that simply restates what the prompt said, you're going to get a 0 because it says the intended thesis only restates the prompt. But if you know that it is a defensible thesis that's going to be appropriate for what you have to write about, you should be getting a point for that. If your argument is sophisticated, and your writing is sophisticated, you should be getting that sophistication point at the bottom, and then you can see that middle part about the evidence. So I think for you, this is nicer because you get a better idea as to where are the strengths, the weaknesses of the writing. But truth be told, haven't seen the College Board grade any essays on this scale because they haven't for this course. So that's where we're kind of in the dark a little bit. So when Johnny goes, can you explain to me, show me last year what got a 4 or what got a 5? No, I can't because they just didn't do it that way. How many are taking A push? A push switched to something like this a few years ago. So it'll be good for you folks. I think a lot of the social studies switched. So that it'll be a little bit more consistent across the curriculum. But I'm still kind of new to this part. So you're allowed to go home today and say, my English teacher said he doesn't know much about my essays and how they're going to get graded and how am I going to do it. This is the one time you can go home and say that. The page that you won't like and the page that we'll talk a little bit more about as things go on are going to be the dead words. These are the things that really should not be showing up in your essays. The one that you are going to fight and kick the most about is going to be number 1, to be verbs. I don't care that you're going to fight. It's just the way that it is. Libby's processing this right now. Now, for your rough draft, this does not matter. Don't worry about how you write for your rough draft. I just want you to get a rough draft under your belt. I want you to get a second rough draft under your belt. So when we get to final copies, that this stuff's really going to kind of matter. Is that what you're worried about?
I just don't know page number.
I think am I on 19, 20? 19. All right. So again, I'll explain as we go along. You'll kind of get used to some of this stuff. Today it's all just kind of a whirlwind. There's a reason behind the madness. As you turn through the next few pages, you'll see suggestions. It's not rules, but suggestions as to how you could go about structuring an essay. There's checklists so that before you submit your last final copy, you can run through and make sure I did these things, because that tends to be what quality writing will have. I'm not going to give you word counts, so it's not going to be you must write at least 1,000 words or 1,200 words and all that kind of stuff. When we do essays, like for East of Eden, I'm not expecting for you to write part 5 of the book and submit your own 200-page document. I don't want that. Most of your essays are probably going to be around 4 pages. When I say most, I mean most of what you're going to write for East of Eden probably be around there. Last year I paid attention to word count a little bit more, and by no means is this meant to be law. The more successful essays were usually around 1,250 or 1,300 words. If it was around 800, it probably wasn't enough. If there was like 2,000, probably didn't know what you were writing about, and you just wrote everything, and it didn't work. So that's not a rule that you wrote 1,400 words, how dare you, but it seemed to be 1,250 to like 1,350 was usually the appropriate kind of writing. And again, we'll talk about what we mean by that. Some essays might be 5 paragraphs. You can tell Mrs. Washington. Some won't be. We'll see. So tomorrow, look over prompt number 1, and that's what we're going to start talking about tomorrow, so that you have an idea of what it is you're actually going to do. Have a good day.